Hello, 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 hello. Can anybody hear me? Just gonna wait for everyone to catch up to see if they can hear me. Just wait for a minute. Loud and clear, all good. Finally! Finally. Holy crap. Uh, well, I want to apologize to everybody for the long technical difficulties. I haven't had that happen in a while, and it really just irritated me a tonfold because I did prepare. I did prepare for tonight's newscast. I usually don't prepare. I usually just kind of bundle and put everything together like for about 2 hours or 3 hours before the newscast. But I thought, you know what? It's been a crazy week this week. Why don't I actually fully prepare for tomorrow? Which I did. And like about an hour or so into the newscast beginning, then things started going haywire. Things started going back and forth, um, and it was sometimes out of my control. One of the things I was trying to do is that I was trying to use OBS for the first time because I've been using XSplit all throughout this point, and it just wasn't working for what I needed it to be working for. So that's what happened. And I had a lot of things that I wanted to do in that regard, but it just wasn't fully recognized as well as I wanted it to. So again, I do want to apologize for everybody that had to experience those technical difficulties. If you guys were irritated, you can only imagine how irritated I was putting everything together. But I wasn't going to give up. Well, that's not true. I almost was about maybe a couple of minutes before I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'll just do it tomorrow or something because I don't feel like doing it at this point. But it's on, I guess, now, and I guess we can get to the newscast. So I want to thank everybody for joining me for this newscast today, number 96. So that means we have about 4 more episodes left until the 100th episode of the newscast. So let's start this off proper, shall we? I'm Hawking Johnson, your ACW commentator, as always, and it's episode 96 for the ACW newscast. And boy, oh boy, what a wild week it has been for professional wrestling. I gotta tell you, it's probably been one of the more craziest and most interesting weeks in wrestling that I've ever witnessed in quite some time. Whether you find that a good thing or a bad thing is up to your interpretation, but it definitely has been an eventful week on all spectrums, and I did not really plan on doing a newscast this week because I did one last week, but this week was so crazy that I thought, you know what the hell? I would do a newscast this week, and we're going to talk about everything that's happened this week. As you can see on the thumbnail, we have a lot to get to in terms of the trajectory of professional wrestling as we know it. And I'll tell you this right now, in my personal opinion, I think these weeks, like today, or this week, excuse me, rather, weeks like these are going to start becoming the norm heading into the couple of months ahead for professional wrestling. Um, to be honest, it's probably a great time to be a wrestling fan right now. It's really just being for those that were old enough, whether you were a kid or whether you were a teenager or whether you were even an adult, that were able to witness the Attitude Era or slash the Monday Night Wars. These type of weeks would be happening every single week. Whether you were an analyst, whether you were a journalist, or whether you were just simply a wrestling fan, these type of weeks would happen every week. So you're now getting a sliver of what to expect with the impending competition coming up, and we are going to talk about that. As my neighbor's kid is shouting something because they've never actually done a water slide before. Let me go ahead and close this window here. Yeah. Again, we're going prom 2 here today. There we go. Alright. So, as you can see also on the screen today, For those that are not aware, I did mention this on the newscast a couple of newscasts back, but I did ask you guys that I was going to start creating a little bit of a Streamlabs, so that way, if you would like to tip or donate any amount of money to the newscast, so I can improve on things, it much would be obliged. So if you do want to donate some money to the newscast and PayPal, if you do have a PayPal, that also works as well. That is also included in all this. If you would like to, go ahead. You can go ahead and donate. No one's forcing you. It's up to you. You don't have to, but if you would, or if you would like to, go ahead and check it. Everybody, you know, go ahead and check it out. So, with that out of the way, let's get to the newscast. Let's get to the um, newscast today because we have a lot to talk about. First things first. Oh, that was the wrong one. First things first. We got to talk about this, which broke stories, which broke news sites, which broke everywhere yesterday. And that is that Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff are now going to be the creative directors for both Raw and SmackDown, respectively, for the WWE. And we're going to go ahead and read a little bit of what's going on here. So give me a quick second here. We're going to really dive into what's going on here in the world of professional wrestling. Um, a lot of things that are changing, some for the better, some for the worse. Who knows? But at the end of the day, we'll see how that transpires. So let me just go ahead and get this ready here if my browser can be so kind to load it up. Let me see here. Come on, come on, come on. So I told you we're being impromptu today here. And I had everything planned today too, but it's just everything that goes right sometimes doesn't go right. I'm just waiting for this to load here. Give me 1 second, folks. While I wait here, how's everybody's day going today? I can tell you that I've had a long day today, obviously, especially with these newscast mishaps here today. Clearly, that was something that got under my skin, but I'm here now, so it shouldn't be a big issue. Oh my god, what is going on today? It doesn't even load this slow. Oh my god. This is. Oh my god, do I have to go through my mobile phone to do this? Is that what I'm going to have to do? Oh my lord. Hold on, let me try this. This is supposed to be stupid. Ugh. You know, all this is doing really right now at the moment is just gonna make me more irritated for what I really need to say. So maybe you guys will get what you want, but let's see here. Ugh. Just everything going wrong today is going wrong. Of course not. Of course it wouldn't happen. Tis the life of Hakeem. Be patient, everybody. It's coming. It's coming. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna have to do this on the mobile phone because my fucking internet wants to be a. Oh man. I almost said something that I probably would have to take back, but I'm not gonna do it. Give me a second, guys. It's just it's been a day today. I have never had a newscast like this before. This is kind of actually crazy to me. The way this is all happening. Let's see here. Okay, I might have it. Okay, I think I got it here. Alright. Okay. All right. I think I got it now. So let's talk about it. Let's just get this out the way because I'm already getting irritated today. So this is the article coming from Forbes.com here, from our author Alfred Kanua. Basically saying WWE installs Heyman and Bischoff as executive directors of Raw, SmackDown, and major creative shakeup. So we're gonna read what's going down here with this arc. Um, so WWE is bringing back two of the most influential figures of the Monday Night Wars as it gears for a similar power struggle against AEW as Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff have been hired as executive directors of struggling flagships Raw and SmackDown Live. Per PW Insider and Wrestling Inc., Paul Heyman will run WWE Raw while Bischoff will be responsible to SmackDown Live. Both will report to Vince McMahon in an always interesting dynamic, especially with Triple H still waiting in the wings as heir apparent, which I also have an opinion about, as we both respective brands. Now, this does not mean that Bischoff and Heyman are going to have roughshod around the brands. All this will rearrange certain things here and there, but ultimately Vince McMahon still has the final say. Which I remain skeptical. Was there oh no. Let me see here. Whoa, whoa, whoa! What happened? What happened? There we go. That's what I was trying to do this whole time. God. Okay. All right. We're in the game here. We're in the game here. Anyways, back to my point here. So that I was skeptical about this whole change. Now I didn't say to salvage something of this company at its abysmal state right now. WWE. I don't really give a damn if I say it. Right now, AEW is growing big. But now, as we enter July, and now as certain things have been moving with chess pieces in the way WWE themselves have moved, I am venturing to say now that they're shook. And I think you can say, while not making them mutually exclusive, that they're both shook, but also at the same time that this was a desperation move, and also at the same time that this could be a good or bad move. You can say that this is a good move while still also acknowledging that this is a desperation move to try to counter-strike with AEW. Because as Meltzer said this week also as well, war is inevitable. Now, I'm not saying that war is something that... wait. Do we have... Oh, no. Do we have more lag here? Okay, hold on. Let me try something here real quick. Give me a second. Let me see if I can do this. That looks better. Okay. There we go. Let me go back to here. I'm doing my best, everybody. I am doing my absolute best. But, anyways, continue off what I was saying. But, like I was saying, they're not mutually exclusive. You can say that this could be a possible good move for WWE while also acknowledging the fact that the WWE as a company had to pull a desperation move in order to stifle and fight back with the AEW insurgents. They're two of the same things. They can both be true. And they don't cancel each other out. So, I'm skeptical in the sense that here's the deal. I don't know if this is a good move, but I also don't know if it's a bad move. Now, I am no longer of the notion to give this company the benefit of the doubt, especially that has transpired for the recent years, and especially with the way they've been able to move since WrestleMania towards a downward, well, not a downward spiral, but in terms of the moves that they made. Let's be quite honest. Let's be honest with ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Every move, or at least every move after WrestleMania has directly or indirectly been as a result of AEW. Call it what you want. You can say, oh no, it's really the low ratings. Oh, it could be really because of low attendances. Oh, because it's the SmackDown move coming up to Fox. All those are true too. But let's not get anything confused here. WWE didn't go to these lengths to do this to TNA. And TNA had Hulk Hogan, Sting, Ric Flair, Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, all these big name talents, Rob Van Dam. They had all these talents. They were on Spike TV at the time, at its peak. And WWE pretty much went about it as business as usual because they didn't take TNA seriously. And in retrospect, they were right to do that. This is different. I said initially during the newscast earlier this year that while I'm a skeptic of AEW, and I still am to a degree, if they were able to make certain steps forward that would make WWE take notice, then they will be on the right track. And lo and behold, as we're approaching July, and as we're approaching this Fyter Fest event coming up tomorrow, WWE are pulling these moves right now. And AEW hasn't even done TV yet. That should tell you a lot. Yes, a little bit of vernacular from my end here, but yes, ultimately they are should. I'm not saying WWE's going to be out of business, or WWE's going to lose a lot of money, or WWE's going to lose their spot as the number one wrestling promotion all around the world, or that USA and Fox are just going to drop them just like that. I'm not saying all of that, but AEW has been in effect for this company to where they've had to make moves in order to sustain the insurgents coming from that other company. So, here's the deal. Paul Heyman. Now, I don't need to go through Paul Heyman's resume. We all should know what the man has done for this business. You know, the man that was the creative mastermind of ECW and the creative genius behind SmackDown in the early 2000s. We should all know the pedigree Paul Heyman carries when it comes to creative. So I don't blame people for being excited on his end at least. But here's the deal with Heyman too. The last time Paul Heyman had really any creative stroke with the company was in 2006 with the relaunch of ECW. And we all know how that went. Not the fault of, Paul Heyman, because he was shackled, he was handcuffed, but what he wanted to do with ECW under the WWE banner. So that's why he left. He left frustrated to the point where he didn't want that position ever again. I get all that. But that was in 2006. We're in 2019. That was 13 years ago. I don't know if Heyman has that creative genius left in him. I don't know if Heyman truly is intertwined, with today's wrestling society. I don't know that. And a lot of people don't know that. Heyman, and especially if Heyman himself has been already giving out certain creative ideas in WWE, if he's already done that, then yeah, I'm not all that hopeful then. If Heyman and Bischoff rumoredly have already been inside creative and the shows are largely still awful or mediocre, at least to me at this point. So you gotta keep that in mind. But at least in terms of Paul Heyman, I will give him the benefit of the doubt because his pedigree and his resume speaks for itself. You can do that. However, I can't say the same thing for an Eric Bischoff. Now, don't get me wrong, I know why Eric Bischoff got brought in. This is a man that is a television executive, a man that was hired as executive producer, went on to become president of World Championship Wrestling, was able to get within the Turner executives back in the 90s to where they made WCW a legitimate competition for WWF as a mainstream alternative. And for that length of time, for at least almost 2 years, they were kicking the WWF's ass. And that was largely in part because of the angle of the NWO that Bischoff came up with, or at least stole from New Japan, whichever one you want to call it. Regardless, the NWO was largely successful. And the NWO became a angle that drew a lot of people to WCW and away from the WWF, to where it forced the WWF to change course that we now know as the Attitude Era. However, as you look back at Bischoff's career, he has never been able to create anything close to the NWO. Because even back then in WCW in the later years, when he tried to go back to that well once too many times, you saw diminishing returns, and then you saw the attendances go down. You saw the ratings go down straight to the bottom. You saw wrestlers disgruntled. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So Bischoff, in that sense, failed at that objective. And then I don't even have to go through his TNA run, which was bad in every aspect, and he couldn't even come up with any creative ideas that were even remotely as good as the NWO. Do I need to bring up Immortal and Aces and Eights? Exactly. So, look, I don't have any hope for Bischoff here. Bischoff, to me, is strictly here to be cozy with the Fox executives to make sure that this transition from USA to Fox for SmackDown goes smoothly, because Eric Bischoff does have that business savvy resume to do such a thing. But here's the deal with him as well. At least with Heyman, he's on WWE programming almost every week, so he would know enough about the superstars of now and the characters and the angles to be able to know what will work here, what will work there, yada yada yada. Eric Bischoff doesn't follow wrestling that much anymore, or doesn't care to follow wrestling as much as he used to anymore. How do we know that Bischoff will be in tune? How will we know that Bischoff will be in touch with the SmackDown brand and the WWE wrestlers in that brand to be able to say, look, I can make this person, I can make that person, I can do this angle, I can do this. We don't know that. The fact of the matter is, and the truth of this is, a lot of people are only getting excited about this because of the nostalgia that these names bring. That's just the truth. There's really nothing in recent memory behind the scenes that you can say that these two have done that can make you really believe that there's going to be a new change or a seismic shift within the WWE. Because at the end of the day, these two will still have to answer to Vince McMahon. Paul Heyman has been through this twice and left shortly thereafter. Eric Bischoff, he left after he saw that his services were no longer required. So, in surface level, in terms of the bare minimum, I can see why people are excited, and I don't blame them. I really don't. I can see why people have hope. I'm just saying that this is an entirely differently company. This is an entirely different company compared to back when Bischoff and Heyman were there last in a consistent basis. It's different now. We're literally right now, this era, this year of WWE, we're literally in the new generation 2.0 era. That's what I'm dubbing this whole era we're in right now. It's just that they have more money. They have more money than the original new generation, but they have so much less star power than that said new generation. It's not even funny. So, I get people are hopeful, and I'm not even really bashing for that. I can understand that. But you can also have to understand that people can be skeptical about this as well. A lot of mixed reactions with this whole thing, in my opinion. I've seen it throughout social media. Even the wrestlers. The wrestlers were apparently, reportedly, taken out of surprise that this announcement came out of nowhere. They didn't even know about it until we all found out. It'll be interesting. We don't know which way to go. I might be as neutral as you might think in this instance. I wish that this thing can be something that could really change the WWE, because they need to do something. Whether you think this is a good idea or not, I think we can all agree that this company needs to do something quick. Because look at what the hell has happened with this company in particular this week. Stomping Ground. I believe it got less than 5,000 people in the arena that can hold 1,800,000 people. Raw doing less than 4,000, a record low attendance of all time for that company. SmackDown doing less than, I believe, 2,500 people in attendance paid. Can you believe that? 3 back-to-back-to-back live events, Stomping Ground, Raw, and SmackDown, have all witnessed record low attendances. And the ratings are nothing to be proud of either. They continue to go downward. Whether it's stagnated a little bit to where it can go to a 5% drop to just completely dropping off the cliff for a 10% to 20% decrease. That's not good. You've got wrestlers openly, publicly, and privately showing their displeasure of being in the company anymore. You know, it's crazy. I mean, you got one of your world champions making themselves look like a fool, and we'll get to him later in this newscast. But be that as that may, every decision since WrestleMania from this company has been baffling. This is the same company that tried to place a NXT UK takeover event on the same day as AEW All Out and on the same time and area, as New Japan Pro Wrestling's Royal Quest, and had to use a spy to insert themselves into New Japan's box office, even though they didn't realize they only had two, except that one. They had two, so they're about to sell out that building compared to NXT UK takeover, which is like at the bottom of the barrel in terms of priority for that company. This is the same company that, again, I mentioned the record low attendances. The ratings are down into abysmal lows. The network has stagnated worldwide to just simply 1.5 million subscribers. You would think that with that type of reach that the WWE has always had, they would have excelled at least damn near past 5 million. They're not even close to 2 million at the moment right now. You've got people within the company that are talking about how either that they want to, leave, or basically that they're excited for what the future awaits. And when they use the word future, they mean AEW to an extent, and maybe New Japan included as well. This is the same company that placed the Evolve 10th anniversary show on the same day as AEW's charity event Fight for the Fallen. I'm not saying that they can't do that. I'm just saying the intention of why they did it is pretty bad. And I'll get to that in a second. But the fact of the matter is that this company has had a history of classic spiteful moves. If you don't know your wrestling, then you need to research it. Because this is classic WWE at its finest. This is the same company that tried to place Survivor Series on the same day on Thanksgiving back in the 80s as Starrcade. The same company that told all the satellite and cable providers, if you air, the Great American Bash on your provider, we're not going to give you WrestleMania the following year, and force those companies to basically answer to Vince in the WWF. This is the same company when Stone Cold Steve Austin walked out, got the likes of Jim Ross and The Rock to say he took his ball and went home. A phrase that's quite familiar with a certain person recently that just used it on somebody, and I'll get to that as well. Fact of the matter is that we don't know what this means. We don't know if this will benefit greatly or this will just decline to a more further slope. We don't know that. We can only speculate and assume based on what's going on recently. All I'm telling you is that this can go either really great for them or this can go really bad for them. Okay? But make no mistake about it. What we can detect at the end of the day is that this is a move to combat against All Elite Wrestling. It's just a fact. You don't have to be a fan of the product. You don't have to be a fan of WWE or AEW. You don't have to be even a wrestling fan to see what's really going on here. And again, I want to state clearly that we're not at a war yet. I still don't think we're at a war. Okay, AEW still hasn't put on a TV show as of late. So until we can at least get 3 to 6 months of trajectory in terms of that TV show, we don't have a war yet. But I will say this. We started out with subtle jabs. Now we're moving on to petty maneuvers. It's clear that things are starting to escalate. All that bullshit that Cody and Triple H and Stephanie and the Bucks were saying about, oh, we don't want competition. Oh, we just want to be an alternative that exists with WWE. Or WWE saying, oh, we just want AEW to be here because it's really good for the wrestling business. All that bullshit is on the side now. Now we're starting to get into the true intentions of what this really means. WWE wants to be the only mainstream game in town that does what they do, which is professional wrestling or quote unquote sports entertainment to avoid tax evasion. But at the same time, AEW wants to come in here and say, you know what, we can hang with the big dog, and we're trying to give an alternative to the wrestling fans that you have chased out for years. And in terms of that, you can't have those two goals exist at the same time. One of those goals have to fail in order for that other goal to succeed. You may not like it, but that's just the way it is, and history will tell you that if you pay attention. And look, I'm a wrestling fan. I'm not one company fan or another. I have a lot of skepticism about AEW in terms of them trying to provide health care for the wrestlers. I'm still skeptical about that in terms of equal pay. I don't think that's going to be something that continues going forward. And there's other things that they have to do to appeal, to a casual audience, because doing the Be the Elite stuff isn't going to be enough in order to get those people to come to your product. At the same time with WWE, I can give them props when it's deserved. When R-Truth's being the 24/7 champion, he's arguably to me the most entertaining champion in that company, period, right now. He clearly is. I see the likes of Chad Gable, Akira Tozawa. I see those type of people, Mustafa Ali, Andrade. I see those guys that are working their asses off and they're putting on great matches almost every week, but they don't get the opportunities really that they should really get. And 205, probably the only brand with WWE, in my opinion, right now that I can actually watch, knowing to go what to expect about it, and I have little to no qualms about it. Kofi Kingston, although the title reign pretty much needs to end here at Extreme Rules with Samoa Joe, I think Joe needs to beat Kofi here. And as much as they have dragged it to where Kofi Kingston really doesn't feel as a character, he has evolved. Other than the pancake throwing stuff, they really haven't done much with that character in terms of what him as world champion should be. I do appreciate the fact that not only did he got his WrestleMania moment by winning the WWE Championship, but he also has been able to be booked as a strong opponent, beating Daniel Bryan, beating AJ Styles, beating Kevin Owens, beating Dolph Ziggler. I appreciate that. In that sense, I appreciate that he is he's the most tolerable champion that they have in that company compared to Truth. So I can appreciate him and give praise to WWE when it's deserved. When I think there's good stuff from WWE or AEW, I give them the praise. When it's shit or abysmal shit from WWE or AEW, I'm going to give it to them. I have no allegiance to any company. I'm just a wrestling fan. But I'm telling you right now, when I see WWE making these moves currently right now, they're shook. Period. Disagree with that all you want. You are more than welcome to disagree with that. That's fine. It's just my opinion. I've seen this movie before. I see the way WWE has always been petty throughout the years, throughout the past decades. It's clear. That's why I said it. I didn't think the only thing I'm surprised about is that I didn't think they would get shook this early. I would think by October, with the TV show for AEW, that they would start pulling these type of moves. But they're doing it early now. And we've got about like 3 to 4 months until the TV show coming up. And the rumor is that the AEW TV show will air on the Wednesday before the first ever SmackDown on Fox. That's the rumor going on right now, which would be really crazy. But nonetheless, Bischoff and Heyman, Vince had to ask Bischoff and Heyman for help. Dress it up all you want. Vince had to go to Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff, the two men that he had to combat against in the 90s during the Monday Night Wars. He had to go to them for help against this beast, this inevitable beast in AEW coming out right now. That says something. And to think all that Vince had to do was just drop the Stardust character from Cody Rhodes. That's the crazy thing about it. If Vince had just done that, all this shit doesn't happen. And it's just crazy the way we've moved on from those years back. But yeah, while I don't think we're at a war right now, it is inevitable. War is inevitable. However you want to interpret that. But competition, war, battle, whatever you want to call it, it's coming. It's coming. Whether people want it or not, it's going to happen. It's not now. It's not happening now. But it's going to. And you can just see the railroad tracks being built to that inevitable war. And hey, look, It's good for the wrestlers. They have more places to work. They get more money out of it. It's great for the wrestling fans who have been disillusioned from this one company monopoly for the most part of a decade, 2 decades now. This is going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see how WWE is able to get back on track to providing quality entertainment. It's also going to be interesting to see how AEW can be able to fight back towards a big dog that has done this for damn near 60 to 7 years. They're just going to make him focus on NXT, but really think about this, though. I mean, think about it, though. Vince is going to focus mainly on the XFL coming up in the fall. Well, coming up in the spring of next year, but in the fall is where the groundwork is going to start being built for Vince to do things. So, yeah, Vince is going to not have so much of a focus on the day-to-day operations of the WWE. That and he's 76 years old, guys. He's getting old. So you would think the heir apparent in terms of day-to-day operations in the company, Triple H, Paul Levesque, Hunter, whatever you want to call him, would at least get a trial run, at least from now until the end of the year, to see how his vision would work. Now, granted, I'm one of those people that don't think Triple H is going to be this almighty savior that's going to solve all of WWE's problems. I'm not that far off to thinking that. But it would be an improvement from what we're currently getting right now with Vince micromanaging everything. But it seems to me that Vince, in a certain way, doesn't trust Triple H and to an extension this company. You know, if anyone was listening to the latest Observer Live, Stephanie, I would assume as well, trying to prevent them from undermining and taking some sort of significant power from Vince McMahon. I'm not saying that's the case, but I think it's possible. You know, I think I think it's really possible that we could very well see a power struggle, an internal power struggle within the company. Wait a minute. Did the stream crash? Hold on. Let me see this. Okay, if the stream crashed, then just go ahead and refresh the stream. It should be good to go. Um, I would think that's the case. All right, I think people are telling. Okay, people are saying it's back. Okay, cool. Basically, what I was saying before the streaming apparently crashed was that what if there's going to be a power struggle within the company? Because I think it's coming. I think you can see it, and if you can hear it even, that there's going to be a power struggle within that company. There will be people that will choose Vince's side, and there will be people that will choose Triple H's side. And that's not just to say the talent. I'm saying that about staff, producers, executives. People of that nature will also start choosing sides. Now, granted, Vince McMahon holds the majority shares of the company. So unless you're going to buy out Vince's shares or you're going to be able to buy more shares than him, he has the final say on that as well. And I don't see Vince McMahon giving away power anytime soon. The man might literally have to die before Triple H and Stephanie assume power. And quite frankly, Vince McMahon is so goddamn stubborn that he may very well live till he's 90 years old. He may very well live until he's 90 years old, to where he finally maybe dies by then. But by then, Triple H and Stephanie will be in their 70s, and then they will be clearly not equipped enough to run the WWE effectively than they could have. And I wouldn't even be surprised if that was Vince McMahon's last petty move, was to live long enough for Triple H and Stephanie not to take control effectively. I would not be surprised whatsoever. But if you want my honest opinion, I do think a power struggle is coming. I do believe that. I do believe, if you've seen the reports, I believe there was reports of Triple H's Twitter account liking fans that were criticizing Vince McMahon online, or there was this anonymous quote unquote intern or writer that called into the PW Torch podcast and said all these things, that he was the insider and that Vince is the one ruining things and Triple H is upset. And I said before that I didn't even buy that. I think that was more so Triple H paying off or stooging off an intern to tell PW Torch all these things bad about Vince. It wouldn't be impossible. This shit used to happen back in the 80s and the 90s. So I do think there's going to be an internal struggle happening between the two. But until you can buy out Vince in terms of shares or power, Vince has the ultimate say. And just like with this whole Heyman and Bischoff thing, yeah, they might be the head of creative, basically, for both Raw and SmackDown, but they still have to answer to one guy. And if that one guy is still micromanaging this company, let alone those two guys and their ideas, ain't shit changing. Or it's not going to change as big or as positive as you may think it'll change. It's just not going to happen. Although that would be more proof enough to get Vince the fuck out of here and try to oust him as the owner, but it's not going to happen. So, all I say is to remain skeptical about this whole Heyman and Bischoff thing. It sounds good in theory. I don't blame you for getting excited. It's something new. It's something the WWE had no choice but to do, with AEW coming very, very soon with their TNT TV show. But all I'm saying is that don't get your hopes up too much if this doesn't work. Because if this doesn't work, if Bischoff and Heyman can't get this to work, if this doesn't really do anything for the company long term, in terms of a creative aspect, man, we're going to be in trouble. Especially come September with, NFL football coming back and AEW finally stepping in with the television world. It's going to be a hell of a fight in certain ways. I did predict that certain people within the WWE side are going to, try to AstroTurf, as AEW has another event coming up called Fyter Fest tomorrow night. That certain things are going to be coming from the W side to try to undermine that hype and momentum, which ultimately didn't work. But it's just going to be it's going to be a lot of petty shit from both AEW and WWE from this point forward. Nobody's going to be innocent in this regard. And on this next topic that I'm about to talk about, you're going to see what I'm talking about. But that's where we stand right now. I got to assume Triple H is a little bit irritated that Vince didn't even consider him more so than Heyman or Bischoff. And Shane, at this point with Shane, he's basically an on-screen character. He has little to no power with the company. Remember, he's the one that left back in 2007 to establish his on-demand service in China that failed. He left the company. I'm sure Vince was the one that wanted to groom Shane to effectively control the business once he was done. And Shane left. So Vince had no choice but to go to Stephanie and Triple H. So Shane is on the outside looking in. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how everything transpires from this point forward. Next topic, though, we get to. It's the Evolve 10th anniversary show happening. It's coming to everybody live, I believe, July 13th on the WWE Network, which will be headlined by Adam Cole going one-on-one against Akira Tozawa. Akira Tozawa, who was also rumored, by the way, to maybe leave WWE. There was reports that Akira Tozawa made a tweet that simply said "done," and that was the day that Akira Tozawa signed with WWE 3 years ago. So people were speculating that Akira could very well be done. I don't know. There was reports saying that that's not the case. Who knows? But we'll find out eventually in the coming weeks. But he will be in this Evolve 10th anniversary show against Adam Cole. I believe also we've got Matt Riddle going one-on-one against Drew Gulak as well on the show. So, you would think, now granted, you would think with this being the case, it's like, wow, finally Evolve has a show on the WWE Network. There were rumors that Evolve was going to be a part of the WWE Network in some shape or form. So you would think, cool, 10th anniversary of Evolve. A lot of the NXT alumni that have gone to the main roster or are still on NXT are Evolve alumni, basically. So you would think, wow, cool, awesome. There should be no problem, except for the fact that now they established the fact that you know they're gonna put this Evolve 10th anniversary special on the same night as AEW's charity event, Fight for the Fallen. Now, here's the deal. I just said it. I literally just said it, a couple of weeks and months ago, and I just said it a couple of minutes ago, that this company is going to do what they have to do to undercut AEW's momentum. Granted, if you think for 1 second that if you're going to try to be in potential competition with WWE and Vince McMahon, we're talking about Vince McMahon, a man that even beat the government, beat every territory in the 80s, went up against WCW and defeated them, defeated the damn government during the steroid trials in 1992 and 3. If you're coming at Vince McMahon's head, you better expect certain moves that, yes, are shrewd, yes, are probably even immoral to the degree, but the fact of the matter is that that's what he's going to do. He couldn't give a shit about your charity event for gun violence and gun control. He couldn't give a damn. All right, we're talking about the same man that did a death angle the week before Benoit died. We're talking about the same man that did Katie Vick. We're talking about the same man that has done a lot of stereotypical shit in the company. This man doesn't care. As long as he sees that you're a threat in his domain, he's going to try his best to take you out, minor or major, every way possible. And be honest, as much as this is a 10th year anniversary for Evolve and everything, who the fuck really cares about Evolve in 2019? Evolve now is nothing more than a feeder system to NXT, which is a feeder system to the WWE main roster. Okay? Gabe Sapolsky, the man that had the biggest rise with Ring of Honor success in the 2000s. That can't be taken away from him. But when he started getting bad and got ousted, he created Evolve. And people forget that Evolve was created simply for the fact to mess with Ring of Honor. It was a way to get back at Ring of Honor as a standalone promotion. And it worked for a while because you had the Chris Heroes, the Davey Richards, the Roderick Strongs, the Matt Riddles, the Ethan Pages, the Drew Gulaks, all of those guys, the Ricochets come into that promotion. And for a while, it was a hotter brand, a hotter promotion than Ring of Honor or Impact or whatever. But now as Gabe basically is now a bootlicker for Triple H and NXT, now he's using Evolve as a promotion to try to coerce other hot independent and foreign talent without quote-unquote contract tampering. Let me tell you something right now. It doesn't matter even in pro wrestling. We're talking about sports. Hell, we'll even talk about Hollywood to an extent. Everybody tampers with contracts. Period. Okay, Anthony Davis is heading over to the Lakers. You don't think LeBron James and his agent Rich Paul haven't been in talk to Anthony Davis on his last year as a Pelican? You don't think that they were having talks, having just lovely dinner chats, and we're just going on yacht clubs? You don't think it wasn't about business? Come on. Let's not be naive here. This is the same thing here. The same thing when a lot of talents will come in here from whether it's AAA or New Japan, Impact, Ring of Honor. When they come to Evolve, Gabe's whole job, whether he's with Triple H and Regal there or not, his job there is to coerce people to NXT. So that way when their contract expires, all of a sudden you see them appear on NXT. You see them in the crowd for an NXT takeover. How the hell does it work? So just keep that in mind when you see a lot of hot talents coming from the independent scene or from foreign companies out all over the world or what have you. When they show up at Evolve, best believe that certain agents within the WWE talk to them to try to get them to go to NXT as a start up. Period. And I'm not going to be convinced otherwise. But back to the topic at hand, though. The Evolve show is going to be playing on the same night as AEW's Fight for the Fallen. Now, granted, Fight for the Fallen is, I believe, 2 weeks from now, especially Evolve as well. So Fight for the Fallen won't necessarily be seen as a big event like Double or Nothing or even Firefest. It's basically a charity event for gun violence and gun control. Now, granted, I'm not going to get too political here. I'm not going to try to argue why I may or may not be all down with that. But the fact of the matter is that this is an event that they've been trying to build towards. This is an event that they have had scheduled for a long while now too. So for this Evolve announcement to come out of nowhere and to be placed on that same day is very suspicious, but not surprising, coming from the WWE and who runs it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and read an article because it didn't stop there. There was a lot of backlash with this whole thing from one Mr. Kenny Omega. From by the way, so let me go ahead and pull out this article. If you've seen the tweet that's already been scrolling on the front page, right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and click it just to give you guys a full view scale of what's really the point here. So just go here. King Trey says classic Vince move also evolved as the double A of baseball of WWE. Yeah, of course. Gurak saying I smelled a rat the instant I learned it. Yeah, dude, come on, come on. Anyone that knows their history with the WWE and the way they try to go after their supposed rivals and opponents, they know what this means. They know exactly what type of tactics are used here. All right, so I'm on here on WrestlingOnline.com. Basically, Colin Vassallo, excuse me, the author here, basically saying Kenny Omega's angry tweet directed at Evolve and WWE backfires. Let's see here. So AEW Executive Vice President Kenny Omega wrote and later deleted an angry tweet at WWE and Evolve for scheduling the Evolve 10-year anniversary event on the WWE Network on the same day there is Fight for the Fallen. Now here is the deleted tweet that you can see scrolling on your screen and also on this article here. If lining your pockets with blood money is okay, then what's wrong with trying to undermine a charity show for victims of gun violence? Omega said. Pretty powerful, actually. The tweet was obviously aimed at Evolve's management for accepting WWE's offer to be on the network. The blood money reference is due to WWE getting paid by Saudi Arabia. I hear that healthy competition is supposed to be a good thing, and yet I can't help but feel like I'm going to be sick, he continued in that same tweet. But the angry outburst backfired on the former IWGP Heavyweight Champion, and he was met with several criticisms for his choice of words. Omega eventually deleted the tweet and later issued a clarification. And he said on this tweet following, I've said my piece, and it opened the door to a very toxic environment. It wasn't a message to fans or the boys, just the decision makers. I wish everyone wrestling on any show that day all the best. That is all, he concluded. So, here's the thing. A bit of a mixed reaction from this Kenny Omega tweet. First things first. I do appreciate the fact that Kenny Omega was able to basically come out and just say what we all know. To basically come out and just address that elephant in the room. That you are doing a petty move. Like AEW established this event, however you agree with it or not, they established this event as a charity event for gun violence and gun control. With the shooting, the shooting at the gaming convention for the Madden gaming convention over in Florida, but that was their choice to basically show their thoughts and their condolences to the victims of that shooting and how they wanted to help the gaming world. Because I remember when that came out, and the gaming world was really shook or shocked, if you will, about that whole ordeal. So AEW established their event. So for WWE to first of all announce Evolve's 10-year anniversary on the network and try to place it on the same day as that, it comes off immoral, quite frankly. I'm not here to virtue signal. You best believe that if you know me well enough, that's not my style, and I really don't like that either. But I have to address it the way it is. What's supposed to be a night to commemorate the victims of that shooting and to do it for a good cause, quote unquote. The fact of the matter is that WWE placed this event, this Evolve event, on that day to simply try to go ahead at AEW. Now, nobody's stopping the WWE from putting an event there. And I think people are getting confused with the intention here. Nobody's necessarily upset with WWE for putting that on the same day as AEW. A lot of wrestling events are placed on the same day, and we all tend to watch all of it or be attendance to most of it. But at the end of the day, it's not about the action, it's about the intent. And the fact of the matter is that to AEW, this was not about competition that night. It was about a cause that they believe in. And WWE basically said, fuck you. You want to be a part of competition? This is what's going to happen. And I will criticize Kenny Omega because I did say I was mixed about this. Look, Vince McMahon is a shrewd businessman. Vince McMahon will do whatever he has to do to make sure the WWE stays afloat and stays solvent going forward. This is Vince McMahon that you're dealing with. Did you think, Kenny, that Vince McMahon was just gonna watch your charity event and say, "Oh, okay, well, we won't mess with AEW here. We just won't do that. We'll just do it maybe another day or the day after, maybe, or maybe the day before." Of course not. The McMahons have no sympathy for this kind of stuff. And also, to be quite honest, AEW, if we're talking about the cons here, the cons have been a part of some shady businesses too. I think they've had some dealings with certain Middle Eastern countries that are very anti-human rights. So it's not like the cons are really clean on this endeavor as well. And I believe I also heard that the law firm that is partnering with AEW here had to dig up names of dead people that were smokers to prove some sort of anti-smoking lawsuit that was happening that the firm was against or whatever. I don't know. I would have to look at the details. I didn't really read carefully into that. I'll have to double check on it. But basically what I'm saying is that AEW, with their connections, aren't all that squeaky clean either. So the wrestling business isn't clean whatsoever. So this is not about, you know, morality, if you will. It's not. So I think Kenny, you know, I think Kenny is, I think he got emotional. I think he got over emotional in the fact that this is the WWE. They're gonna do what they want to do. They're gonna make sure that you realize that if this is the competition, this is the way you want to go. That's the way it's gonna be. But at the end of the day, the WWE doing what they're doing here, it's just petty, it's childish, and it's damn near immoral to do it with the way they done it. Um, it's just not right. So there's really no winners. There's really no clean winners here. But at the end of the day, and I also believe New Japan is doing a show that night as well, and also UFC that I know very well. UFC are going to be doing a show that night as well here in Sacramento. They'll be at the Golden One Arena for their UFC show. Clearly trying to warm up for us before our Cruiserweight Clash. Clearly. But basically there's going to be a lot of stuff happening that night. From AEW, from WWE, from UFC, from New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's just the way of the business. And I think Kenny Omega, now that he's embarking on this new venture as executive vice president of a promotion, he's going to have to learn a lot of things. You're not just a wrestler anymore. You're executives. You're businessmen now. You're going to have to learn the ways of the business. Whether good or bad, that's up to you. So, but yeah, Evolve will be airing on the same day as AEW Fight for the Fallen. Honestly, I don't see this sabotage going anywhere. I feel like people are just going to watch Fight for the Fallen live, and then we'll watch the Evolve show maybe on demand or on DVR the next day or maybe later in the night. But I don't. If the WWE's goal was to sabotage AEW here on this night, I don't think it's going to work in terms of what they want to do. So that's just how I go about it. And then we get to this then. This happened actually earlier this week, but a little bit of a Twitter spat between two big stars in the wrestling world. Obviously, WWE Universal Champion Seth Rollins and IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Will Ospreay got into a little bit of a tiff earlier this week in terms of what Seth Rollins tweeted um, on Twitter, I believe the day before Stomping Ground this week. Let me go ahead and pull out the article for this because we want to make sure we get the entire context about it. Let's see here. By the way, I want to thank everyone for staying with me tonight. I appreciate it. Alright, I found it very quickly. Alright, so fansided.com by Cynthia Vespia made a article here. Seth Rollins got into a Twitter war with Will Ospreay, among others, as Rollins stepped up to defend the work ethic of the WWE. She writes, maybe it's true that the more time you spend with your significant other, the more you become like them. The usually laid back Seth Rollins seemed to be channeling real life girlfriend Becky Lynch, where he took to Twitter recently to unload some grievances that have been building up in his mind as of late. So, it's establishing the tone. It started as a simple tweet with Rollins citing WWE as the best pro wrestling on the planet as the WWE headed into Stomping Ground. And Seth Rollins' tweet says here, obviously, best pro wrestling on the planet, period. Now, look. First things first. I didn't really have a problem with the initial tweet here from Seth Rollins. Because, look, you gotta understand. This guy is one of the top champions, if not one of the top main eventers of the company. He's being paid very, very well. So I expect him to represent his company and defend it. I expect that. Now, granted, I clearly disagree with that notion. As long as New Japan Pro Wrestling is still alive, I don't see that being a thing. It's not even the best brand of the WWE. That would go to NXT, right? Although, to me, if you want to be honest, I mean, 205 Live can give you an answer, too. But, I get it. I get it. Seth Rollins had to say that because, let's face it, the company right now is cold. The company right now has little to no buzz or momentum whatsoever. Their ratings are shit. Their attendance numbers are abysmal. Seth Rollins, and it's not his fault. He doesn't take full blame here, but him, amongst a few people like him as well in that company, have not drawn the fans back or kept them here. They just haven't. And also, John Moxley, one of his quote-unquote friends, leaving the WWE to try to take his hand at AEW and then New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's about to do the G1 and then wrestle this tomorrow night against Joey Janela in that non-sanctioned match, and will wrestle Kenny Omega in August at All Out. Right now, Moxley's the man. He's the hottest star right now in the world of professional wrestling, in my opinion, today. So, obviously, someone like Seth Rollins is going to be a little bit flustered about that. Seething, if you will. So him saying best pro wrestling on the planet, period, I get it. He has to say that. He has to shill like that. That's what you're supposed to do. However, as I keep reading this article, this is where Seth Rollins started becoming a fucking idiot, in my opinion. So let me continue here. When fans and media chided him for the statement, he doubled down and reiterated his stance before going on a Becky Lynch-style burn fest. If you call it that, I guess. One of his targets came in the form of current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Will Ospreay, when Ospreay opted to jump in on Rollins' thread and announced he was alive. From there, the two bantered back and forth before Ospreay peeled off and continued on his own Twitter timeline. So let's see here. Yeah, so basically Will Ospreay said, I'm alive. Quote tweeted him, obviously, because that's what you do. And then Seth Rollins responded, I'm sorry, little guy. We already have a better version of you here. And he just won his first U.S. title tonight, referencing Ricochet. Keep working hard, though, buddy. Okay. A couple of things. First off, I don't think Seth Rollins should be the guy calling anybody a little guy. If you get what I'm saying, Seth Rollins should be the last person calling anybody a little guy. That's just I'm just gonna leave that. But here's the thing: the condescending attitude. It's one thing to defend your company because you're being paid by your employer. That's all well and good. It's another thing to completely be a condescending dick while brown nosing for a company that has a lot of shady practices behind it. The fact of the matter is, Seth Rollins got himself worked into a shoot, and a lot of idiots are just gonna say that Seth Rollins is working the fans. Seth Rollins is working everybody. The fuck are you talking about? It's not like Seth Rollins and Will Ospreay are gonna wrestle anytime soon. It's not like that's gonna happen unless this was for a program or a wrestling match or a segment together. Nothing's gonna come of this. No, what it really was is that Seth Rollins got his feelings hurt. Seth Rollins started getting into his bag. Seth Rollins started becoming a little bit jealous in the fact that someone like Will Ospreay, who has had one hell of a year, and quite frankly, I'm not even a Will Ospreay guy like that, but it's undeniable that Will Ospreay has had one hell of a 2019. He might go down as the wrestler of the year, and quite frankly, one of, if not the best wrestler in the world today. That's just you can't deny that, especially with his run during the Best of the Super Juniors. You can't deny that. So Seth Rollins clearly feels that, you know, he and there was another tweet that really just irritated the fuck out of me where he was all like, you know, well, I make more money than you. Let me just tell everybody a little fact here. Let me just give you a little insight here. Whenever you have to resort to the whole I make more money than you, nah, you completely lost the argument. Because let's be quite honest, it's not like Will Ospreay is a jobber. This dude is one of the top gaijins in New Japan today. The man is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. I'm sure Will Ospreay's making enough money to where he doesn't have to worry about someone like Seth Rollins berating him and try to undermine whatever he's done this past year. You know, Seth, let's be quite honest. Let's take it here for a second. What the fuck have you done this year? I'll even go a step further. What the fuck have you really done a couple of years now compared to what Will Ospreay's done? Name me 3 matches from Rollins. I'll even give you a start date. The beginning of 2017. I'll give you, 2 years. You tell me. Name me 3 Rollins matches that have eclipsed anything Ospreay's done this year. Shit, I'll wait. Fact of the matter is that Seth Rollins, right now in 2019, doesn't touch Will Ospreay. And that's a fact. I don't even think Will Ospreay's, in terms of, I think even Will Ospreay gets a lot of praise that can be considered overrated. But Seth Rollins isn't touching Will Ospreay. He's not touching Okada, not touching Naito, not touching Ibushi, not touching a broken down Tanahashi, not touching Ishii. And hell, I'll even go to your company too. You're not touching Daniel Bryan. You're not touching Andrade. I always get that mixed up. You're not touching Andrade. You're not touching Daniel Bryan. You're not touching AJ Styles. You know? You're not touching... Who else I can mention here? Freaking... Ciampa. Cole. For some Gargano. Riddle. You know what I mean? Seth Rollins is in top 5 anything right now. What he is right now is a very gifted wrestler that doesn't have any buzz as a Universal Champion. People forget that he won the Royal Rumble this year. And quite frankly, his Universal title win against Brock Lesnar, nobody remembers that compared to Kofi or Becky's win. What the fuck has Seth Rollins done to think he can just start talking this shit to other people? If you want to defend your company, that's one thing. You can do that. You can go ahead and do that. No one's berating you for that. People that are Shield stands and WWE geeks kind of get this confused that we're getting at Seth Rollins because he's defending his company. Why is he just defending his company? No, stupid. We're going after him because he was clearly gotten to. He was clearly emotional and in his feelings, and we're making fun of him for it. So that when people like Seth Rollins saw the fact that the entire internet wasn't rallying behind him when he said Team WWE, hashtag Team WWE, we're the best wrestling in the world. When people didn't just fully go behind that bullshit, he kept going and going and going. It wasn't no work. Okay? I won't go as far to say he had a mental breakdown like others have said. Fact of the matter is, Seth Rollins got in his feelings. And Will Ospreay said, here I am. And instead of trying to take the high road and either not reply or just have a little banter, you get in your feelings and with your little ball sack, you get in your feelings and try to undermine Will Ospreay's career and his year in 2019. Fucking Seth Rollins, listen, he comes off as a corporate stooge. He really does. He comes off as a corporate shill. It's easy for Seth Rollins to try to come after people like Will Ospreay. It's easy for Seth Rollins to try to throw people like his own quote-unquote friend, Jon Moxley, under the bus. I don't know if people were able to see certain comments that Seth Rollins made on that Sports Illustrated podcast that he did this week. But I was looking at those comments and I'm like, wow, what a piece of shit. Because I wouldn't condone that if my friend did that to me. You wouldn't condone it if your friend did that to you. Here you are, right? Here you are, congratulating Jon Moxley, wishing him good luck, making sure that he does well with whatever he does. And then here you are in the Sports Illustrated podcast saying, oh, well, Jon Moxley, essentially what he was saying was like, oh, Jon Moxley wasn't, he wasn't suited for the WWE. You know, the WWE has a lot of things that can really mess with your psyche, and I guess someone like Ambrose wasn't suited for that. Ambrose took his ball and went home. I don't appreciate the fact that Jon Moxley went to a podcast and tried to talk bad about a company that gave him everything. What the fuck? What the actual fuck coming from Seth Rollins? And I don't want to hear this shit about, Vince told him to say all these things. I'm sure he did. At least some of the comments that he said. I'm sure he did. But are you telling me that Seth Rollins, who also said in this podcast that he has creative control as a top champion, as a top main event player, are you telling me that Seth Rollins couldn't tell Vince McMahon, I'm not going to say this about Jon Moxley, I'm not going to say this about my friend. I can just say a few things here and there, but I'm not going to say all this about Jon Moxley and throw him under the bus. That's stupid. That's being a snake. We call that being a snake. And no one appreciates it when snakes slither and try to destroy a narrative. And apparently Seth himself wasn't listening to Jon Moxley's interviews with Chris Jericho and Wade Keller. Because Jon Moxley didn't attack Seth Rollins. Didn't attack Roman Reigns, who, by the way, if you notice, Roman Reigns has been silent throughout this whole thing, by the way. Interesting. He didn't even attack any of the boys and girls that are working in the company. He just criticized Vince McMahon. And even his criticism with Vince McMahon wasn't personal. He criticized the structure and the environment of that company that damn near gave him depression because of the things that they were making him do. And then the fact of the matter is, you're going to say he took his ball and went home? What the fuck are you talking about? The man fulfilled his dates in his contract. When April 30th came, he was free to do whatever he wants. That's why he didn't have a 90-day compete clause. He said and gave his notice on the week of the Royal Rumble that he was leaving. He did everything that he was told to do, even if he didn't like it, like the Roman Reigns leukemia cancer angle. He did whatever he was told to do, knowing that he was just counting down the days until he can leave. Okay, this isn't CM Punk. This isn't CM Punk, who basically has a personal vendetta against the company, Vince, and especially Triple H. It's not CM Punk who says that he hates pro wrestling. It's not CM Punk who went to Colt Cabana and just gave his grievances about the business and the WWE to where now he's even suing Colt Cabana. Okay, Jon Moxley quite frankly, was a bit too generous with WWE with his interviews with Jericho and Kelly. He could have really went in. He could have really ripped them apart, but he didn't. He gave constructive criticism about the company and the way it's structured, the way they are creative, quote unquote, and the way that the atmosphere tries to create a certain environment to where you're depressed, you don't feel like coming to work, you don't feel like doing this and that. And for Seth Rollins to come in here and say this about his quote unquote friend, to think he just took his ball and went home, fuck you, dude. I don't know the dude personally. I get it. But I'm just going by the behavior of the things that were said. I'm just going by what I saw and what was established here. You don't have enough power. You don't have enough ball sack. And granted, I'm going by the links. You probably don't have any to begin with. But you don't even have enough of that to just say, no, Vince, I'm not going to talk bad about my friend. I'm going to worry about being champion and trying to get back interest into this company that you need help with. You couldn't tell Vince that. You had to go ahead and shit on one of your friends just because you need to have a strong, secured spot in the company. That's some snake shit. That's being a coward. That's being a sellout. I know the word sellout has been overused a lot in this era that we live in, but that's a real sellout. That you're willing to throw people under the bus. That you're willing to just undercut people like your friend Jon Moxley or people like Will Ospreay. And then just say this shit because now you're the Universal Champion and you've gotten all these opportunities. Seth Rollins has been getting all these opportunities. Compared to Dean Ambrose. Even when he won the World Championship. Even when he was WWE Champion. Even when he was main eventing certain parts of the pay-per-views. He wasn't a made man like Roman Reigns. And he wasn't a made man like Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, ever since he broke away from the Shield, has been made. Has been given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And the nerve of him, all of a sudden, to just come over here and talk bad about Jon Moxley and what he was going through, when he was all the more welcome. He wished you and Roman well in the WWE, you dumb fuck. He wished the boys and the girls in the back that, hey, if you want to live in that environment and you can be able to succeed, more power to you. He just couldn't do it because he likes the creative freedom that his character and his mind of pro wrestling gives him. And the fact of the matter is that Seth Rollins was to come over here and say Dean has to look in the mirror and realize that the choice that he made was right. It makes me sick because I know people that I've worked with as a job outside here. I've worked with people like this. I've seen people do these type of things. They're snakes. They wish you good luck in your face, but then when you turn around, they're the quickest people to stab you in the back. Blame yourself, Seth. And people like you that have put this company in the position that they're in. Yeah, Vince deserves most of that blame. Don't get me wrong. But here's people like you trying to suck up and lick ass to the likes of Vince McMahon and Triple H because they've given you the opportunities. Just shut the fuck up and say that, look, I had no problem with this initial tweet. Go ahead and say that WWE is the greatest wrestling on the planet. I have no issue with that. I understand that. But then don't come over here and undermining people that want to get out of that environment and feel like they can be successful outside of that prison. Just because Jon Moxley took the risk to get out of there and bet on himself. And look at him now. He's about to do the G1. He's about to wrestle Kenny Omega at All Out. He's about to be a made dude out here. And here you are because Jon Moxley is a more hotter name than you are. And that's what it really comes down to, doesn't it, Seth? People like Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley are hotter than you right now. And that makes you seethe. That annoys you. That Will Ospreay didn't need the WWE to get a hot buzz and his strong momentum going. And now that he's staying with New Japan, he's about to be one of the biggest gaijins in the world. Jon Moxley was there. And he couldn't solve the problems there. Just like CM Punk couldn't solve the problems there. Just like Austin, when he left, couldn't solve the problems there. So he went out and took a risk, and it's paying off right now. And here you are, Universal Champion, in the biggest promotion in the world today. And no one couldn't give a shit. You do realize that this whole thing you've been doing this week is the most interesting that you've been in years, Seth. If you're okay with staying with the company, if you're thinking you're the locker room leader, if you think that you have the best wrestler in the world, more power to you. That's all well and good. But then shut the fuck up if you're gonna try to undermine and throw people under the bus just because you feel a certain type of way. Because you're jealous that one of your former boys of the Shield is basically more popular at the moment, more hotter than you right now, getting more buzz and momentum than you. That's on you, stupid. I'm just calling it like I see it. And don't get it twisted. You're going to see more of this kind of stuff. You're going to see more WWE talent, WWE legends, WWE staff, WWE executives. You're going to see more of this stuff as we get closer to the AEW TNT show. You're going to see more of this brown nosing if you haven't seen it already. Drew McIntyre gave an interview this week as well, said basically the same thing, but on a lower level. Kurt Angle's out here saying that Baron Corbin is the best heel in the business. Kurt Angle, who was one of the best heels in his era, was saying that about Baron Corbin. That he's one of the best heels, the best heel, in the business. You're going to see a lot more corporate shilling from this company as we get closer and closer to the fall. If you think this is where it stops, boy, you got another thing coming. Another thing coming. And it's going to be one where it's going to suck. Because WWE thinks that we're stupid or that we don't know better as to what's going on. That we don't have the foresight to see the blatant shilling from talent such as Seth Rollins. Quite frankly, Seth, you're no different than Shawn Michaels in 1997, buddy. Yeah, you have the great wrestling, and at least compared to the new generation of back then, you have the money and the global reach. But the fact of the matter is, nobody gives a shit about the product right now. And nobody gives a shit about you as their top champion. It is what it is, Seth. But I'm just telling you, if you feel that WWE is the greatest wrestling in the world, that's fine. A lot of people will agree with you. I don't. I'm not one of them. But a lot of people will, and I respect that. But don't be a condescending asshole here. Don't be an inconsiderate douchebag and try to bury others that are trying to make their careers outside of that WWE bubble. Because this is great for the business, it's great for the boys and girls, and it's great for the fans that we're starting to finally have some competition in the mainstream professional wrestling world. So Seth Rollins is wrong. Dead wrong. He comes off as a snake to me. Quite frankly, he comes off as a shill. I can't take really a lot that comes out of his mouth now. I've kind of lost respect for Seth Rollins here this week. I kind of have. With his little Twitter spats with Will Ospreay and Wade Keller and Chris Jericho. To this whole thing with Jon Moxley on Sports Illustrated. I kind of have lost a bit of respect for Seth Rollins. He should know better. And he didn't. You would think Roman Reigns would be the guy. And Roman Reigns didn't even complain this much compared to what Seth's doing. And Roman Reigns got it worse. The man got it way worse than you, Seth. And some of it to me wasn't even justified. I've had to defend Roman Reigns a lot because a lot of people gave him shit. And Roman Reigns, he may have said things here and there, but he didn't complain to the lengths that you did. Own that shit. The product sucks right now. Why do you think Heyman and Bischoff were asked to come back? Dummy. This product is cold right now. It's abysmal. And it's up to people like you to figure out how to not get to that red again. But then again, I've always said Seth Rollins is not a guy you put as the face of the company too. I mean, the man was world champion for Ring of Honor, and that's quite frankly to me where Ring of Honor started declining in quality. So, you know. But Seth Rollins he's just not a guy you put as the face of the company. He can be one of the faces. He can be a world champion in parts here and there. But I'm not putting Seth Rollins as the guy for a company that I want to build. It's just not going to happen. But anyways, I just thought that was low. And I thought it was pretty slimy from Seth Rollins. And let me just finish off this article here too, and just actually read what Rollins did say in the podcast defending WWE here. He said, "You can only sit back and read people bashing something you love for so long, and sit there and take it, and try to take the high road. I'm really proud of what I do, and what our crew does, and the efforts they put forward. And I'm not just talking about the wrestlers, the guys and the girls you see in the ring. I'm talking about everyone from creative all the way up to Vince McMahon. Yes, Seth is defending Vince here, folks. Y'all, well, let me start over again. I'm talking about everyone from creative all the way up to Vince McMahon. Let me see. Y'all, Jesus Christ, a lot of these ads. Give me a second, folks. Just got to add here. Come on. Damn 30-second hits, huh? Come on. Come on. You can tell I've had a frustrating day today. But then again, I've never had my newscast be this difficult today, so you have to forgive me. But yeah, as I try to get this thing back here, yeah, just Seth Rollins comes to me like an entitled prick that's been given opportunity after opportunity. It's easy for him to talk all this nonsense when you've been given opportunity after opportunity um, ever since breaking up with the Shield. And there's a lot of people that haven't been given those opportunities that you've been given, so it's easier for you to shit on people like that. Okay, Okay, it's back. It's back. Okay, let me start over again for those that didn't really get the full context of here. Let me read it again. You can only sit back and read people bashing something you love for so long, and sit there and take it, and try to take the high road. I'm really proud of what I do, and what our crew does, and the effort they put forward. And I'm not just talking about the wrestlers, the guys and girls you see out in the ring. I'm talking about everyone from creative all the way up to Vince McMahon. We put a ton of effort into making a product that I think is pretty darn good considering the amount of content we put out there. Oh my god, I almost did a newscast. And that they put a ton of effort